The TRIPS agreement sets out positive sum objectives for the IP system itself. It articulates the compelling idea that the IP system exists to promote the mutual interests of both producers and users of technological knowledge in a way that promotes social and economic welfare and that balances rights with obligations. This idea resonates today as we consider the potential contribution of the IP system to the economic, environmental, and social equity objectives set out in the SDGs.
WIPO was there at the birth of the TRIPS agreement. There was a very strong effort on the part of both agencies, WIPO and the WTO, to work together to find complementarities. I'm pleased that this spirit of complementariness, collaboration, and partnership continues today.
Whatever your personal perspective may be about the value and role of intellectual property, it is something that is widely used when enterprises, governments, foundations, and so forth exchange technical know-how and knowledge. Without having this vessel in which technology is encapsulated, it's very difficult for people to move technology between point A and point B and to make progress. So it's very important that people understand intellectual property, which is something that the TRIPS agreement promotes in terms of protection and availability, and it does have that type of potential for building a knowledge economy.
You know, TRIPS is a public law, but at the time of TRIPS, there were no lawyers in most developing country governments who knew either trade law or intellectual property law. And we're beginning to see a cadre of public lawyers who are just now, 30 years after the TRIPS agreement, the first generation of these lawyers who have been trained and who have learned the doctrines and the strategies and the processes of the TRIPS agreement. And it's hard to tell where the future will take us now that this first generation is emerging. But the problems are real. From access to knowledge to access to medicines, there remain big challenges about the wiggle room that TRIPS allows.
Well, I mean, there are significant challenges that need to be addressed. It's the advance of technology, it's dramatic changes, and I think it will be very important for the TRIPS to keep abreast with these developments. At the same time, I would like to stress that the TRIPS agreement really is technology neutral, and I think that should also remain in the future.
30 years ago, when the TRIPS agreement was concluded, it set an ambitious objective for the protection and enforcement of intellectual property rights. How to continue delivering and increase delivering on this promise in actual practice is a challenge today in a radically transformed technological, economic, and geopolitical environment. The world of intellectual property is profoundly transformed from the situation that prevailed at the time of the TRIPS agreement when it was coming into force. Participation in and benefits from the IP system are increasingly widespread and more equitable.
We must foster continued discussion about how TRIPS fits into the wider trade policy and development landscape, and how it would best be implemented by a diverse membership so as to promote the goals of social and economic welfare that the agreement itself refers to. We see the WTO's 30th anniversary not as a one-day, one-off event, but rather as a process of forward-looking dialogue on how this organization can best respond to members' current and future needs and interests.
So I think we're entering a world where innovators and creators are increasingly from all parts of the world, increasingly interconnected through trade that's increasingly digital. And hopefully this will lead to an innovation landscape that's not only more vibrant, more dynamic, but also more inclusive. IP and trade will become even more interconnected, and so TRIPS will become even more relevant.